Hey dudes, and welcome back to another RC Cars UK. Paddy with you here again. Now we've got the Kyosho DRX, formerly GP, in front of us. So this was the nitro, as you may have seen from the videos that I took last week. This is being converted to a brushless now. We're going to go for a 23 turn pinion, and the first job we're going to have to do is remove one of these disc brakes on this side and the other one from that side, and then the whole radio tray from there as well, because we need some space for the ESC, the batteries, and of course the motor and mount. So let's get cracking with taking that off. And you can really see the state of this chassis here, guys. It's clearly had some use. There's a lot of stone rash on it. So the screws that we're aiming for here are some Phillips heads. They are not JIS, they are Phillips heads. I've just taken one out. They are fairly easy to remove. Thank goodness the owner didn't Loctite these, because they absolutely blasted everything else with Loctite. So I'm just going to go ahead, take the rest of these out now. Right, so I think the old diff unit has just fallen off there. Yeah. So one thing I did notice with this design, guys, is that the center diff here, although it has a brace tower to tower, which is just plastic, which is fine, it did not have a tower to tower brace, so it only had a center diff brace, and there was nothing stopping it. I mean, it does have some sort of very weak chassis braces here that are made out of plastic, which plastic chassis brace is pretty much pointless, to be honest with you. And what's happened is the chassis was bananaed. It's now been straightened out somewhat, as best I can anyway, and what you'll notice is that when that chassis flexes and either end goes up, it pushes the driveline together and compresses the driveline, so you end up with stuff like this. You can clearly see how bent that pin is, because when we roll it, it hits the ground there in the middle, and we roll it up, and you can see it's bent out of shape there. Not a problem, we can bend that back, because we need to make room by taking these off now to fit our motor here and our mount. So speaking of motor and mount, here we go. So it's a 1700 kilovolt motor. That's a 4068 racer start, just a cheap Chinese motor. Runs on 4S quite well, and it's going to be paired with a rather large pinion once I can find it. There it is. It's going to be paired with this, which is a 23, is it? Yeah, 23 turf M1 pinion from Hebeo. It's hardened steel. This obviously meshes very well with the M1 gears that the Nitro model ran on the center diff, so fantastic. Speaking of center diff, it is plastic, the spare gear on here, and it has seen quite a lot of wear, so how long that lasts before we need to replace it, I don't know. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and ordered a metal spur already. Right, so here we have the brake disc assembly, the mech brakes that were on here at Nitro. Just taken one off this side just to check that it's not been Loctited, which thankfully it hasn't. So these are factory put in screws. These work okay for Nitro. You can see it's a vented steel disc there. And how these come apart is you just take the two screws out at the top of the brake pad here, yeah, the brake pad retainer. You can see the pad's just sat inside the retainers there. So we're just going to go ahead and undo these, and I'll show you how it comes apart. Right, so you can see here that we've got our screws out. Just going to take this last one out here, and I'll be able to show you. There's the retainer, and the pad sits behind it. So the pad is made of rubber, and then you have your vented disc itself. You can see there with a score pattern on it that it's been used, but it's not worn out. But we don't need these anyway, so we can take this off. You can see it's actually, you see the flat there on that side of the cup, and on the other side of the output cup, it actually mates with these quite well, so that it locks it in place. It's an okay way of slowing the car down, I suppose, especially if you're using a high-speed rig. It's worth keeping these sometimes, but we are not going to need these, because this is a very small RC. Even though it's 1.9, it's basically a stretch 110. It is not a 1/8 scale platform. So that being said, it's very lightweight, so we're not going to need these mech brakes at all. Fantastic, as we've just got both of them off now, which gives us a little bit more room for our mount. You can notice here we're running a bodge up mount, so this is just a bodgeman's mount, and this will be cut. It'll have to be cut where my thumb is here on the side, so it mates well with the centre diff like so. So obviously you need to be quite aware of where your cable is coming out. You can see here where it's just been mocked up. I just wanted to check that it would fit, which it just does, and I mean just does, which is great. Obviously you've got 4 mounting holes there. I can drill some more in here, which I probably will do. There's another one here that's slightly closer, and another one here which I'll probably use, providing I have space and clearance for a bolt head. So that being said, let's go straighten out that little wonky drive shaft that we had here with a hammer, and then we're going to go and see if we can fit this, put the pinion on, see how everything meshes up. Obviously first we need to carry on removing stuff. So first we're going to remove this, keep the steering servo, we're going to keep that in place. Right, so here's a common issue that I have come across before, guys, and that problem is the top of the receiver box here is one modular tray. So this bit here, which is the brace, which acts as the brace, should I say, for the top of the servo holding post, is built into this unit. So if you remove this unit, you also remove the top brace from here. Not a problem. You can either take a little coping saw or a Dremel and simply cut this piece off here and then refit it to the top. You can do that if you want. Or you could make your own custom piece out of, say, a piece of carbon fibre or something like that, that will sit across the top of here and perform the same job that this piece would have done. But obviously that piece will stop here, enabling us to free up all of this space here. Here's something pretty funny. You can see that somewhere there was a design flaw on here, and I would pin it to the fact that there is actually a small hole underneath here. That is, you can actually see some debris that's built up around there, and it's built up on the chassis around that hole. And there's also another hole in the box there that's purposely cut. These are factory holes, but what you can see is that it's led to this. So you're driving along at 30-40 miles an hour, you're going through the grass, it's putting dry grass straight through there, and the air vacuum from the holes on this side is sucking all of that through here, yeah, and into the receiver box. So in here you've got like a little rat's nest thing going on in here that's built up just over time, clearly. So that's quite interesting. Nice little design flaw there, kyosho. And here we have the unit itself, all fully out. We've saved quite a bit of weight there. Obviously the batteries are insignificant and cannot be counted in that anyway, but we've taken the servo off, we've taken the battery tray off. Now this is weighing next to nothing now. And just one other thing to note, guys, obviously with the centre diff assembly, you will want to remove, you see these little brake cams here that would push against. I'll just show you how they worked. So if I move here, you'll notice that they turn. See them very slightly turn. There you go. And what that does is that forced one side of these little brake shoe carriers, brake pad carriers, onto the disc itself, so it clamps it up. So you'll want to remove the top plate and just take those cams out. They should just come off. Most of the time they do. Yeah, look underneath, there you go. And you just want to keep your top piece. Once again, you can use a plastic piece, or you can make your own out of alloy or steel or carbon fibre. And if you want a little quick handy tip, on the material that you're doing it on, just mark your holes on there, 1, 2, 3, 4 through to the material that you want to make a new one out of, and you'll have a perfect match for lining it up in future. We are just going to use the stock one. Right folks, you'll notice we've got a battery on here. Now that's because we've already actually converted this now. You'll notice the motor is sitting on here. Everything's been soldered up. You'll notice it's dusty as anything because we did have it out for a run yesterday. Got a little ahead of myself and decided that I would film the video for the running and finish that video before I finished the video of it actually being converted. So this was filmed over the last night or so, and obviously you can see here we've got the motor sat in, pinions all there. The spur gear held out for its first run, so that was pretty good because we did give it a bit of a spanking. So that's pretty cool. You'll notice we've shoved a poor man starter tower brace in there as well, and that's connected at both ends, and that stops the towers flexing in on the middle. What else have we got? ESC is tucked behind, so we've got very short wires. We've got the ESC tucked behind. Now, you'll be noticing, why have I designed it like that? I don't usually do that. I usually put the ESC here, or I usually put the motor a bit more forward, swap the centre diff round, so I can move the motor forward a bit and sit the ESC down flat. However, on these, because it's a rally, I wanted it to be arse end heavy. And the reason for that is on the gravel, when it's arse end heavy, especially if you've got quite thick oil in the back of the diff here, it will spin out at the back nicely, so you can get a nice controlled sweep, like a rally car if you will. And you notice it's sort of sit up and beg, it's slightly sat up more at the front. There's more rebound at the front than there is at the back, so it's floating nicely at the moment on the terrain. The chassis, the shocks at the back are much stiffer, and they don't have as much travel sort of thing. They will hit the deck if you want them to, but not as easily as the front. So basically that's it, guys. Ignore the tie wraps. It's obviously all tie wrapped on. I've not got any straps at the moment. I've not even put a tray in there. I was desperate to try it out last night and give it a bit of a run. But we're going to get it out again today and give it a little blast. So yeah, thanks for watching this conversion, and stick around because there'll be many more to come. Cheers, guys.